there's a lot of like heart and there's a lot of heartbreak on the album.
I think if you're not familiar with Amy Winehouse, beyond the artist, like the person, there's this very good documentary on Netflix. And the reason why I talk about it today is because it relates closely to the album we're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the name of the documentary is. Anyways.
It's called Amy.
Okay, well, type in Amy. And it has been very well received by critics as well. And I think by the general public. It's a quite long documentary. I think it's 3 hours or something.
Very long.
But growing up and liking this music and, of course, knowing about her battles, but not that intimately. Yeah. Seeing that documentary was very tragic for me because it's heartbreaking because it's almost like she paid the price for us to enjoy that album.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? It's so tragic.
It's a catch-22.
She paid the ultimate price with her life for the album that we all enjoyed, that is going to be iconic, that is probably going to be timeless.
Yeah. It's interesting that like when she was alive, the press vilified her, and like now that she's gone, it's like, well, she was a great talent. My personal story with Back to Black is in 2006 I wasn't like following her back then. Like I obviously heard it on the radio. It wasn't my favorite at that time, but it's in the last maybe 5 years that I have picked up this. I actually got it on sale, the vinyl on sale, and I end up listening it through the vinyl. I'm like, oh my god, this album is quite great.
See, for me, it's quite the contrary. As soon as this album came out, I loved it.
Yeah.
From the very first song to the very last song, it was playing at my house. It was playing in my parents' car. It was playing in my room. It was playing. Yeah. I think I was quite young to like this album because it was a more mature album.
Very much so.
And I think that's why the documentary was so tragic to me because everything you hear on this album is true. When she says, I don't want to go to rehab as long as my dad thinks I'm fine, it's true. Her dad told her, you're fine, baby. Yeah. Think about it. And then it's on the record. She is the essence of realness, if you will, because she really sang and wrote about her own experiences. And also in that documentary, they talk about the whole recording process. Yeah. You know, she'd come in completely stoned, or she'd come in drunk, or she'd go and vomit between takes and come back. And it's this tragedy of us enjoying music while she paid the ultimate price for it. I couldn't sleep for months after, because I was so into that album. See,
it's an interesting thing so because tragic. we wouldn't have this album if she wasn't a drug user.
Exactly.
And I'm assuming no one wants her to be a drug user, but then again, it's like you either get this album, this masterpiece,
it's one or the other.
Exactly. And Back to Black is one of these albums that is groundbreaking because it was a blueprint for like this neo soul type of music that is coming out now. It paved the way for people like Adele, Birdie. It's groundbreaking because I don't think we would have record companies taking chances on singer-songwriters.
I think it had a bigger impact in the UK rather than in America. If you look at the exports that the UK brings to the United States after Amy Winehouse, there's quite a divide, right? Between, if you take out, of course, One Direction and Little Mix and whatever, right? But there's quite a divide between almost like some UK artists are regarded as like quality and some American artists are perhaps regarded as more like consumable products. I think another thing that's really interesting as well is the global reach that she had with this album, despite the fact that at some point she couldn't travel to the United States because she had a criminal record. I think it's on the Grammys night that she won Album of the Year or something.
It was best pop album.
So, and her performance was live from London because she just couldn't be at the actual Grammys. Yeah. She couldn't travel to the United States.
Didn't Tony Bennett present her the award?
I think so.
Yeah, because I remember her being super excited and her dad not being there. She's saying, look, Dad, I've gotten this award and look who's presented it to me. Like,
we wanted to talk about our favorite tracks on the album. But let's go with like the ultimate track that you like on the album.
The ultimate track is the title track for the album, Back to Black. I think it is brilliant. Like, it is a song that
it's such a good song. The video's brilliant as well.
The video's brilliant, and it has like this like the very vintage girl group from the 60s vibe to it. To me, I think the highlight within that song is the lyrics in the second verses where she basically says that life is like a pipe and I'm a tiny penny rolling up inside or boiling up inside, and it obviously plays into their drug use. It's beautiful in a sense, you know what I mean? Like I've always loved that part of the song because it's very intimate in an aspect.
I really like Tears Dry on Their Own. I think it's I don't know, I like Rehab as well. I think it's a brilliant title track, but Tears Dry on Their Own, I don't know, there was this vibe to it. It's almost like more cheerful, but also the lyrics are really sad, and I just like the drums on there, the way they play it, and
on the album. And that's a great thing about Mark Ronson's production. The drums, they're
all real instruments to start with,
and they're very lush.
Yeah, they're reminiscent of the 50s, 60s.
Yeah, and even on Rehab, the bass line.
Yes, the bass line is always good.
It's such a great bass
and
line.
it's real bass.
Yeah,
when you hear a real bass, like it's so groovy.
Another highlight, and like this song is good. I think it's the second single after Rehab. Is You Know I'm No Good, which again
I think so,
is playing into the whole like.
Or wasn't it Back to Black?
No, Back to Black was the third.
Okay. All of these songs are so good.
The great thing about You Know I'm No Good is, again, it builds into this narrative of Herb not being the best person in the world, but there's a lyric in it that like basically is calling out her boyfriend for being bad at like cunnilingus and like being bad in bed. Like saying like upstairs in bed with an ex-boy, he's in place but I can't get any joy. Like you don't hear lyrics like that coming from female artists, especially as popular as she was. You get into like, I think, stuff that everyone can sort of relate to as well.
You know what? The more we talk about this, the more I realize I don't think Lana Del Rey's first album would have existed if it wasn't for that album. They're not the same, obviously.
Of course.
Amy Winehouse was not doing current music. She was not doing pop music of 2006.
No.
And neither did Lana Del Rey in 2011. Yeah. It's almost like they're just aside from the music industry and they just did their own thing. And obviously, obviously, if Amy Winehouse would have continued doing music, I think she would have ended up being a bit like Lana Del Rey now. When they die right after the biggest album of the year, and probably I would say the decade, of course you're going to have this status. I think Amy Winehouse paved the way for artists that want to do music, that are successful at doing music, but on their own terms and in a separate lane, yet still be popular.
But Amy, like one of the final songs and the final single, which is probably one of the saddest songs on the album, is Love Is a Losing Game. And I think if you catch me on a bad day or on a day that maybe emotions are a little bit like more on my chest or my sleeve or whatever, if that song comes on, like I will have a cry. And you could tell, again, she was dealing with relationship issues and whatnot. But as you know, Amy died in 2011, maybe about 5 years after this album was released. She was working on music from what I've read. She also joins a club for dying at the age of 27.
Yep.
And people like Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, all died at the age of 27. People that are gone too soon that probably had a lot more potential. It could have been it could have been bigger. We will never know, but it's 27, such a young age to go at,
and the thing is, it's the Marilyn Monroe effect. You remain young forever, and that's a tragic reality, right? If you look at Elvis or Michael Jackson, who passed away way after their prime. You know, we talk about Elvis. We remember, of course, we weren't there, but we've seen photos of Elvis, young Elvis, in movies and whatever. And we've seen also photos of Elvis in Vegas, much older, overweight. You know, not popular like he was before. When you think about Michael Jackson, unfortunately you think about all the scandals that happened, and his music legacy has also been impacted with it. So there's also something very tragic. Of course we don't want anyone to die at that age, but there's the tragic truth where if you die at that age, in your prime time, after an album like that, perhaps your legacy is gonna be forever there. Do you know what I mean? There's something tragic about dying so young. Yeah. Like Marilyn Monroe doesn't age. Yeah. Because she died too early. Yeah, they'll always be at their prime.
Exactly.
And it's just the sad but tragic reality.
Yeah, but I think.